They were like, what took you so long to pull over? And I was like, I was scared because I don't want to get unalived. Justice was not served. We live in a country where the system is broken.
Teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority.
Well, Philip Mitchell done did it again, y'all. He done did it again. Now, I've done, I think like 2 solid videos critiquing Philip Mitchell. And I did one where I actually was like, I agree with him. That was around Christmas time because I think he went viral for basically saying, listen, if you want to celebrate Christmas, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. Like, it's not a salvation issue. Everybody calm down. And so I was like, I mean, he's not wrong though. Listen, y'all, I know y'all probably think I got it out for Philip Mitchell, and that's just not true. I don't even know where y'all get this from. 2819 might need to come off the internet for a while. Like, maybe y'all should get your stuff like figured out. And then maybe when things aren't so, then come back. But he never apologized to anyone for calling these people Karen. Phil Mitchell missed an opportunity to de-escalate and instead chose to escalate the situation. And I think that shows that something ain't quite right at 2819. Okay, that's fair. I get where you get it from. But honestly, y'all, I think I said this in my last video I did on him. I don't like picking on people just for the sake of picking on people. I only got a few complaints about Philip Mitchell. And I've said, I don't think he's a heretic. As far as I know, he's my brother in Christ. My main complaints is that he's a little bit too comfy cozy with false teachers, prosperity, word of faith preachers for me. Not really a fan of some of the language he uses. Sometimes I think he's a little bit condescending. Sometimes I think he can come across a little bit like humble bragging. And I'm like, don't talk about humility. Just be humble, and stop cussing from the pulpit. Now, Philip Mitchell did those things. Honestly, he wouldn't get no complaints from me because I've said this before and I'll say it again. He has got some of the best viral sermons on the internet right now. I just don't want him misleading these young folks into thinking that they can do all these miracle signs and wonders. And then when they try to go clear out a hospital, they discover that praying in the spirit all day long doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to walk past someone in their shadow, heal the person in the hospital bed. That's all I'm saying. So I said all that to say this is not the reason to cancel Philip Mitchell. I'm honestly shocked. I know I shouldn't be, but I'm shocked that out of all the things that he could get canceled for, that this is the thing. Honestly, this clip, not to say it was perfect. I saw the edited version. I have not watched the whole sermon, but I'm going to give my opinion based off the footage that makes him look the absolute worst and say, I still don't have a problem overall with the sentiment. Here's what I think the problem is. He said something along the lines of, what did he say?
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids.
Black people got to stop blaming white cops for unaliving their black kids. Now, mind you, I get why that's extremely offensive. And if I thought that that was the main sentiment and the whole heart of his sermon that day, I would understand why people are so upset. But I don't think that's really what he was trying to get at. I think Philip Mitchell was genuinely trying to help people. And I think he was genuinely just preaching from the text. He's an expository preacher. So they like to stick to that one text, whatever text they in that day, they stick in there. He's preaching. Sounds like he's kind of free flowing a little bit. And y'all know, maybe you don't know. If you've never preached, if you don't have like a YouTube channel where you go live often, I don't think y'all understand sometimes how much of a gamble it is to push a button, knowing you're being recorded and knowing that once it's out there, there's no way for you to grab those words back, right? So I think from that aspect, I kind of want to give him a little bit of grace. And I know y'all probably like, well, why you ain't give him grace in other times? The other times was different because I feel like a lot of the stuff that I've chosen to criticize him about were things that he seems to repeat and things that I just think aren't quite wise. Okay, so this is different, I think. I really don't think he was trying to hurt people.
And I know there's bad cops out there. We know that. We know there's cops who's evil. Man, there's evil people in every industry preaching all that stuff. But man, not every killing of a black man was because of a bad cop. Some of that is because we have not taught our children to be, watch, obedient to authority. That some of the stuff that we bring upon ourselves when we provoke authority. And what the Lord is teaching us in this moment is to be model citizens. Then do what is good. Be a model Christian. And you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do what is wrong, you better be afraid. Prison is coming. Jail is coming. A bullet is coming. A ticket is coming. The IRS is coming.
I really think he was out here like, hey, yo, if you know the cops are typically more uncharitable towards a certain ethnic dynamic, humble yourself, make it through the traffic stop or whatever it is, and go home alive. Live to tell the story. I feel like Philip Mitchell didn't say nothing that John Witherspoon didn't tell Craig in Friday. You know, you win some, you lose some.
But you live. You live to fight another day.
But you live to fight another day. You know, put that pew-pew down, Craig.
Put the gun down, son.
Put it down, son. Okay?
Get knocked out like your father used to.
He was saying, put the anger down so that you can survive a traffic stop. Now, me, myself, I actually have been pulled over a few times, had a few traffic violations. I would say I deserved 92% of the traffic violations that I was ever charged with. Okay, 92%. There was that little 8% where I'm just like, oh, I just hit my hand, where I feel away. Here's what happened. One particular day now, I'm driving through a school zone. School zone speed limit is what, 25? So I go 25, the entire school zone. When I see the in school zone sign, I start to speed up a little bit because I'm out the school zone. Why is a cop sitting outside the school zone and decides to pull me over and tell me I'm going like 10 or 15 over? And I'm like, bro, I legit was already outside of the school zone. So I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I'm going to court. I get to court. That court was so packed and I had to go to work. I was like, I ain't going to court. So I felt a way about that. Like justice was not served. We live in a country where the system is broken and I don't like that. But at the end of the day, like, you know, what are you going to do? Though that other 92% of the time I was like, man, I really legit was speeding and someone needed to slow me down because I really could have hurt somebody. I also had a time where I was going probably about 20 over. An unmarked cop car pulled me over and I'm like, well, it's a wrap for me. He gave me a warning. Okay. So I kind of feel like the school zone incident versus the warning, it's a wash. And all the other ones, well, no. There was one other incident where me and my homegirl, I think we were leaving campus. No. Yeah, whatever. We was leaving somewhere, going to meet another friend for din. So I was driving. I made a left turn, but I didn't put on my signal. And a cop put his flashers on. And so it was kind of like a dark area, not very well lit. And it just kind of looked sketchy. So I was like, I'm just going to drive slowly until I can find a place to pull over. And then it'll be fine. That cop was like, dip, dip. No, you finna pull over now. So there was a bank that appeared. And so I was just like, well, I guess this is about as well lit of an area as we gonna get. And so anyway, he got to the car. I think it was another car with him. And since I took so long to pull over, they were like, what took you so long to pull over? And I was like, I was scared because I don't want to get unalived by some cops, you know, in this dark alley. And they basically was like, do you mind if I search the car? Now I probably should have said no, but I was like, sure. And I mean, I knew nothing was in the car, but I was still feeling mad nervous. Like, what if there's something in the car? There was nothing in the car. So I'm like, bro, do what you got to do. My homegirl was just, she was kind of giving the cop a little bit of lip. And I'm just looking at her like, girl, if you don't hush, like, just chill. So they searched the car. There was nothing to see there. We went home. Like, it was annoying. Well, we didn't go home. We still went out to eat, but it was annoying. And I felt like, well, that was kind of pointless, all this, because I didn't signal. Okay, sir. But I tell you one thing, I be signaling now. I be signaling like a mug now. Ugh. Okay, sorry. Had the TV playing in the back. I know that was a little bit distracting, but let's get back to the video. So I said all that to say, I've had a few overall uneventful run-ins with the cops, law enforcement or whatever. But I also understand that there's a lot of people who have had these simple traffic stops go to a very, very dangerous place. And so I get that's why there's a lot of outrage online. And again, if the whole point of Philip's message was to blame Black people for being, innocent victims of being harassed by the popo, then I would totally be up in arms too. I just really don't think that that's what he was saying. I think he was just trying to be faithful to the text. And I think he was trying to give good sound wisdom based specifically off of the Bible and his own personal experience. So I said all that to say there's a couple scriptures that I wanted to read that kind of address, I think, the heart of this particular situation. And also I just kind of wanted to touch on one of the main arguments that I'm hearing a lot of people say online that I just think is a really bad argument, because people keep saying, well, there's plenty of instances where the black person did comply and they still were unalived. And I'm like, yeah, that's unfortunate. I hate it. We live in a fallen world and there's evil people, which Philip Mitchell, I think he actually did say that during the sermon. Like, there's evil people in basically every profession. There's evil people in church. There's evil teachers. There's evil doctors. Unfortunately, there's evil law enforcement and even, people in the armed forces and all that kind of stuff too. People is people. People are evil. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But let's talk apples and oranges. Like, okay, if the argument is you shouldn't comply because you might still be unalived, should you not study for a test because you might still fail anyway? Should you smoke a pack a day because you could still get cancer? Should you not discipline your kids because they might still, become degenerates? I don't think that's wise. And I think the book of Proverbs kind of gives you these different wise sayings, not because it's necessarily going to work in every situation, but because they are general life principles. Typically, if you live your life this way, things should go well for you. So yeah, I don't like the argument of, well, even if you do the right thing, then you're still going to get hurt. I also would like to know, well, what about the instances where people did the right thing and they didn't get hurt? Because I'm sure no news station is going to report on that, right? And I don't want to say that to belittle the amount of times that this has happened. But I think bad news sells. And we all know that the media exploits the worst of what's going on in the world. That's what I believe. So yeah, I think, if a law enforcement person is unalived by a criminal, like, that typically doesn't make national news unless it's like something really horrific or crazy. But, a lot of times they get hurt and it's just kind of like, oh, well, it's just part of the job. And it's like, I mean, that's bad too, right? We shouldn't be okay when innocent black folks get hurt. We shouldn't be okay when innocent cops get hurt. Like, we should hold people accountable when they do the wrong thing. And I think I was thinking about some of the worst stories. Like, I think it was last summer, Sonia Massey, just boiling water on her stove, and she calls the popo for help and ends up losing her life. That was a terrible story. The Breonna Taylor story was terrible. Trayvon Martin, terrible, awful, evil. You know what I'm saying? But I also want to I think we have to be careful about putting all those situations in the same bucket, because each of those scenarios was kind of different and unique. Like, Trayvon Martin, that wasn't a cop. That was a vigilante, crazy person. Who was the other one? Ahmaud Arbery. That one's still terrifying. Those weren't cops though. You know what I'm saying? Those are also vigilante bad neighbors. So yeah, but of course you are going to have the instances like we were just talking about Sonia Massey, and then you have Sandra Bland. That was another tragic story. Although I do wonder with the Sandra Bland situation, like, is it possible that if she had put out her cigarette, that she would still be alive today? Would we still know her name? You know what I'm saying? We'll never know. And I hate that happened to her. I'm not sure what happened to her in that cell, but I know that the situation was just tragic overall. And so I know the Bible says we should also mourn with those who mourn. But I do wonder if she had just said, you know what, I'm going to give this man whatever he asked me for, as long as he's not asking me to do something, that's wrong or illegal, then I'm just going to do it. I don't know. We'll never know. I do think we have to be careful about not bucking just to buck. And that's kind of what I want to talk about in these Bible passages, because I think the Bible kind of has a lot to say about these kind of issues. At the end of the day, like, do you really want to make a statement that could cost you your life, that could cost you to slip into eternity, even if you're in the right? Like, is it worth it? I think sometimes maybe, but every time, I don't think so. All right, so the first passage I wanted to go to, this is James chapter 1, verse 20. It says, "For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." Now, anger in itself, as far as I understand, is not a sin. But I think the principle of that passage is like, you don't need to live a life having an attitude of being angered or easily offended. It doesn't produce God's righteousness. And even when you think about the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, there is no law. Shout out to, what was the name of the group that sung that song? I think it's God Rocks. I will never forget the fruit of the Spirit because of that group. Anyway, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Okay, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, and it goes a little something like this. "Finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, a tender heart, and a humble mind. Do not repay evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, bless. For to this you were called, that you may obtain a blessing. For whoever desires to love life and see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Now, who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you will be blessed. Have no fear of them, nor be troubled, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. For it's better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil." Okay, so that was 1 Peter 3. All right, then I want to go to 1 Peter 4. The very next chapter over. Here's what it says. I'm going to scroll down to verse 12. Verse 12 goes a little something like this. "Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you as though something strange were happening to you, but rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. For it is time for judgment to begin at the household of God. And if it begins with us, what will be the outcome for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if the righteous is scarcely saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner?" So I know sometimes we be feeling like, and I know in context of scripture is more so talking about suffering legitimately because you're practicing your faith as a Christian. But I still think the principle is, I think it's applicable in the sense of, listen, sometimes you're going to suffer for doing what's right. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Might not feel good at the time, but sometimes it's our duty to suffer for doing what's right. Okay. Matthew, the Beatitudes, I always feel like, I just like the Beatitudes because who was out here preaching better than Jesus? Nobody. Nobody never preached better than Jesus. Okay. Chapter 5, Matthew chapter 5. Okay. Here's what Jesus had to say. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they'll be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers." Peacemakers? Peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So that's what Jesus had to say about, just overall being a meek, gentle person. You know what I'm saying? Okay. What's another one? Ooh, Proverbs. We talked a little bit about Proverbs. Proverbs be out here preaching. Okay. What they say, a proverb a day, keep the foolishness away. I think that's how one of my pastors put it back in the day. That rhymed. Proverbs chapter 3. We'll start at verse 21. Verse 21. Okay. My son, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and they will be life for your soul and adornment for your neck. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden terror or of the ruin of the wicked when it comes, for the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, go and come again. Tomorrow I will give it when you have it with you. Do not plan evil against your neighbor. Now, I know some folks, they say, that's why I don't want to be a Christian no way, because you always got to turn the other cheek, and you always got to listen. There's clear instructions in here about not doing a lot of the evil stuff that was done to our ancestors here. Do not plan evil against your neighbor. The good thing about God and Christianity is that all human beings have value. That's something you're not going to find in atheism, because there is no objective morality. You know, all these things, our value would just come from a subjective, I guess, cultural lens, depends. So if culture decides that you're a person today, cool. But if person decides that you're not, say in the case of unwanted children in the womb, then you're not a person. So that person doesn't have value. Whereas God is like, everyone has value. As soon as you are a person, you have value. And when you are conceived, you are a person. So I said all that to say, God is going to hold people accountable for the evil that they do. And every worldview is just not going to offer you that. You know, we talk a lot about what was done to us, and white folks, you know, they say it was Christians who did this. Maybe some of them was professing Christians. It's just hard for me to believe that Christians was really like, yeah, let's steal people and make them work for us for free. That's not real Christ-like. I'm like, what Bible y'all been reading? I don't know. I don't think those people were Christians, but whatever. But then you have to think about, okay, well, what about the people on the continent of Africa that were complicit in selling slaves to these white colonialists? If y'all say that they weren't practicing Christianity, well, they had to be practicing some kind of faith system that would have made it okay for them to do this to other human beings. So I'm like, I don't know why people would want to go back to that type of belief system, any kind of African traditional spirituality, but I digress. Okay, where else we at? Don't plan evil against your neighbor. So if these people in these positions of authority are doing the wrong thing and plotting evil against you, God is watching that, and God actually commands them to not do that kind of stuff. Okay. Do not envy a man of violence, and do not choose any of his ways. For the devious person is an abomination to the Lord, but the upright are in his confidence. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but he blesses the dwelling of the righteous. Toward the scorners, he is scornful, but to the humble, he gives favor. The wise will inherit honor, but fools get disgrace. Okay, this is going to be my last one. We're going to go to Proverbs 15, and then I'm going to get out y'all way. Proverbs 15 says, I'm talking about, okay, verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. A soft answer turns away wrath. Now I know, again, there are times when people are going to comply and they still not going to survive the incident. And that's terrible. And I really hope that going forward, that people who unalive folks unjustly, I hope they're held accountable for doing what they did, because it's wrong. But what is in our power? Because a lot of times if you're trying to fight the popo, you typically ain't going to win. You're not going to win. So I don't think it's wise to try to fight in a situation where you're vulnerable. You just don't have the leverage. So it's smart to just kind of let them have their day or their moment. And then when you have the ability to fight back in the legal system or whatever, do it that way. Because honestly, when I think about it, okay, say you choose to comply and you don't fight back, don't give lip. They got the footage, the footage on the camera or whatever. Say you don't survive, but your family could sue, because if the cops did not have legitimate reason to harm you, then at least your family can get a paycheck. If you do survive, then you can sue, and there shouldn't be a reason for them to say, oh, you didn't comply. So then you could probably get a check. Now, that may not be enough to get you your peace of mind back. You may not be enough to get you your teeth back or whatever. But I still think something is better than unalivement or living with the injuries and no check. You know what I'm saying? Get your check. Okay, now we're going to go to verse 18. Verse 18 says, a hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger quiets contention. See? De-escalation. De-escalation. That's what cops should do. Sometimes they don't do that. Sometimes cops be out here wilding. I don't like it. They going against what Proverbs say. You know what I'm saying? But if they don't want to de-escalate, do what you can to de-escalate. Verse 26 says, the thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but gracious words are pure. Gracious words are pure. And then lastly, verse 33 says, the fear of the Lord is instruction and wisdom, and humility comes before honor. So what am I saying? Am I saying that it's fair that people are abused in ways that they shouldn't, and that people take advantage of their positions of power? It's not fair. It's not fair at all. But I do think like we can look at different examples in the Bible still. We can look at Jesus. Jesus should not obviously have been arrested because he was sinless. He never broke the law. And what you see Peter doing, Peter sliced off my man's ear, and Jesus was like, Peter, we're not doing that. You know, I look at Esther. Esther had a decision to make. Now, I know Haman is trying to unalive all my people. I'm sitting here comfy cozy in this palace, but my cousin basically warned me that if I don't stand up for something, then I'm probably still gonna eventually find myself in the same ruin. So I got to say something. But notice she didn't just barge up in the man's castle and be like, "Oh, you gonna free my family?" That ain't what she did. She still asked. You know, she did, and it was still dangerous what she did, but she didn't technically violate the law, and I feel like God honored that in this instance. Who else? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel. Now, these are people who were being punished not for doing the wrong thing, but for doing the right thing, which is following Yahweh. So they could have said, "You can't arrest me. God, strike them down." That ain't what they prayed. Hey, y'all got to take me to jail. You're going to put me in the furnace? Well, I know God can deliver us, but even if he doesn't, like, at least we're going to go down with our integrity. So I think this is the kind of stuff, this is the kind of attitude that we should have when it comes to how to deal with cops, when it comes to how to deal with people at your job. I know for me, every time that I have chosen to crash out, whether it be on the internet or in person with people I work with my family, I usually end up regretting it some way along the line. I could even be in the right in some of these scenarios, and I'll look back and be like, that was not the right way to handle it. But I can say, honestly, those times where I have chosen to humble myself and not crash out, I can't think of a time where I've really regretted that. Can't think of a time. So yeah, I think as human beings, we're all gonna, sometimes we ain't gonna have self-control, but I think we should be living as model citizens, like Philip Mitchell was saying. And I think we should be trying to practice living a life of self-control and humility, even if that doesn't always get us treated the way that we should be getting treated as image bearers. So yeah, that's all I had to say about that. I imagine that this is another unpopular take by Miss Titus Jones, but hey, I'ma just tell it like I see it in the scriptures. Would love to hear y'all's feedback. And again, as always, just want to thank all of you. I got a couple cash apps over the last week or so. So thank you guys for the cash apps. Thank you for the channel members. If you like what you heard in this video or on the other videos, please give this video a thumbs up, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so that when I post new videos, you will get the notification. And if you want to support me financially, hey, y'all can do super chats. Y'all can do super stickers. You know, you can give one of those even when I'm not live. And you can also think about becoming a channel member. So yeah. All right. I love y'all. I will chat with y'all later. Y'all, can we give Philip Mitchell a break on this one? You know what I'm saying? When he does something wrong, we can say that's wrong. But if it ain't wrong, let's not say it's wrong. All right, that's all I got to say about that. Peace. I'll check y'all in the next video.